Tokyo Mirage Sessions, Sharp FE. Never have I seen a game hated on more for what it could have been. Back in 2013, we got this trailer from Nintendo with stock Fire Emblem and Shin Megami Tensei characters that made it look as if it would be this epic crossover between franchises. That never really made it into the final product though, as the next trailer revealed something much more lighter in tone to the typical SMT affair, and didn't appear to be crossing over the two universes at all. It even dropped Shin Megami Tensei from the title altogether. Nintendo and Atlus probably shouldn't have teased their fans with that initial trailer, it's true. But I still see a lot of vitriol aimed at this game, and I'm not entirely sure why anymore. This game sold like arse in Japan. Your voices were heard. They're never going to attempt something like this ever again. So can't we now look at Tokyo Mirage Sessions on its own merits and not what we wanted it to be? It reminds me of the whole Teen Titans Go hate. Can't we stop hating just for one moment and agree that Teen Titans Go was actually really funny? Can't we agree that Tokyo Mirage Sessions is actually a pretty good game?
No!
Not a perfect game, but when you get right down to it, it's a typical quality Atlus title. Truth be told, I've never actually played a Fire Emblem game, so this is coming purely from an Atlus fan's perspective. Luckily, the game is pretty standalone, so you don't need to be familiar with either franchise to know what's going on or how to play. Gameplay wise, it should be very familiar to anyone who has played any recent SMT or Persona games. There's heavy emphasis on hitting enemy weaknesses and smart use of buffs and debuffs. But firstly, let's get into the most controversial thing about this game that has attracted the ire of Mega 10 fans internet wide. The story. The setting is modern day Tokyo with a huge focus on its idol culture and entertainment industry. The game opens at an opera where everyone but a young Tsubasa Oribe suddenly disappears, including her older sister on stage. 5 years later, and we find ourselves playing as the protagonist Itsuki, who meets up with Tsubasa at the One of Millennium Talent audition, where she hopes to follow in her sister's footsteps and become an idol. However, it's crashed by mirages, which are kind of demon things from another dimension, I guess, that drains a person's performer. Performer is the manifestation of someone's creative energy. So kind of like personas, but with a more artistic edge. Anyway, they eventually recruit friendly mirages, whose faces you probably know if you've played a Fire Emblem game. Yeah, Fire Emblem characters sort of act as your personas in this game, but not really. They don't fight for you. Your character takes on their appearance and class in battle in what is called a carnage form. This game is hard to get your head around because of all these weird terms and concepts they're throwing at you. Mirages, performer, carnage form. It's worse than a young adult novel. So after we defeat the first boss, we're introduced to Fortuna Entertainment, a talent agency for training up-and-coming idols that also moonlights as a specialised extracurricular... wrong game again. They secretly fight mirages is what I'm trying to say.
Kiryu-san!
They have Tiki stashed in their basement, who is a Vocaloid in this world, maintaining her presence through the power of weeaboo fan worship. I'm not kidding. It's at this point that the game takes on the slice of life elements from Persona. The stars of Fortuna not only have to fight the mirages in their spare time, but also balance it with their careers as singers, actors, TV chef, and, in Itsuki's case, bum? By the way, if you thought Tsubasa was on a mission to rescue her sister through most of the game, that gets resolved very early on. Then she just sort of sits around the Fortuna office through the entire game not doing anything. This is a wasted plot point to say the least. Mirages will routinely possess people and turn them into ridiculous twisted versions of themselves that must be overcome with the power of Performer. It's all very similar to Shadows from Persona 4, especially with how all the dungeons are designed around a theme. The pacing becomes almost episodic at this point, with each chapter focusing on a different part of the entertainment industry. My favourite was when Tsubasa stars in a drama where she's a detective whose personality changes whenever she sneezes. A very Japanese idea for a TV show, by the way. And the director turns into this auteur perfectionist who threatens her into becoming a better actress. It's all very wacky and ridiculous, but more importantly, it's fun. It never feels like it's taking itself too seriously, even when the dramatic stakes are ramped up. Look at this monster here. This is absolutely silly. We're fighting enemies on a stage that appeared from nowhere, and we're doing it all with a cheeky grin. No, this isn't Shin Megami Tensei. This is a brand of insanity unique to itself. You may have noticed the parallels to the Persona series, especially since I've mentioned it several times now. In fact, look up any video about this game on the internet and you're likely to see a comment that reads, "This looks more like Persona than SMT. We're about garbage, am I right?" That person is correct though. Unfortunately, while the story is charming, it ultimately lacks what made the Persona franchise so appealing. thing, and that is the strength of its characters. As a side note, the protagonist in this game is voiced, which is highly unusual for an Atlus title. I'm assuming this is more of a Fire Emblem thing. Anyway, this game has the kind of characters that you can easily categorize. You've seen them before, pretty much, and unlike Persona, they don't develop much beyond their one note. Tsubasa is optimistic and determined, but is kind of a klutz. Toma is the hot-headed best friend. Eleanor is sweet sometimes, hostile other times, also known as a tsundere. Kiria is the veteran idol with an aloof, calm demeanor that is contrasted with her secret love of all things cute, kind of like Sakaki from Azumanga Daioh.
Anime was a mistake.
Design-wise, she's got this rad punk rocker look going on that kept me interested in her character early on before I realised how boring she is. She just sort of stands there with dead eyes in most cutscenes. Those cold, lifeless, dead eyes staring gormlessly into my soul. Anyway, Kiria is just kind of a boring character. And then we have Barry Goodman, who's a trainer at Fortuna. He's no otaku, is loud, and is generally the most annoying character in this game. I did not care for Barry, one bit. In fact, the only amusement I got out of his character was hearing the Japanese actors try and say his name. He's an ex-rocker and is now obsessed with the 8-year-old Mamori, a mousy TV chef on the show Microwaving with Mamorin. What kind of name is that for a cooking show anyway? I don't need a cooking show to show me how to microwave. It's literally all I did in university. I'm an expert, I'll show you right now. Hello everyone, welcome to Microwaving with SnicketyReviews. Today I'm going to show you how to microwave this Rustler's burger here. Bang on some ketchup, oh no, I'm not here to judge. And put that shit in the microwave for about 90 seconds. And you're golden, you're golden. But I digress. The characters in this game aren't that good, to be honest. Some of them look really cool, and the way they bring their personality into battle is interesting, but they're just not compelling characters. This becomes more of a problem in the game's side quests, which have a similar purpose as Persona's social links. They have trials and tribulations which the protagonist will have to help them through in order to become stronger characters. You're rewarded with extra abilities which will help you in battle, but I found that to be the only motivation to finish these side quests. It wasn't like in Persona 4 where I actually cared about where the story was going. This was more of a, oh, let's get this quest done as quickly as possible so I can get back to the main game. This side quest did nothing but stir apathy in me. Apart from the missions with Tiki equals waifu, she was cool. The characters aren't terrible. They're likeable enough to keep you playing through the main game, and they do bring some really funny moments here and there, but that's all they're able to do. They're not memorable, and they all feel like cheap derivatives of Persona characters. A cheap, superficial derivative of Persona describes this game's story in a nutshell, really. The story may be below Atlus's usual standards, but where this game truly shines is its gameplay. If there's anything Atlus understands, it's turn-based gameplay. The genre has been on decline in recent memory, with companies such as Square Enix opting to abandon it entirely in favour of the more mainstream real-time combat. I think I may have ranted about this in my review of Valkyria Chronicles a few months back. Fantastic, they turned it into a garbage action RPG. But Atlus has been consistently proving that not only is turn-based gameplay not dead, it actually has the greater potential for strategy and depth. Tokyo Mirage sticks closely to Atlus's winning formula. A heavy emphasis on hitting enemy weaknesses, taking advantage of buffs and debuffs, and an actual sense of challenge that encourages strategy over level grinding. Resistances and weaknesses are a mix between both franchises, with SMT being represented by Agi, Bufu, Zio and Zan skills, and Fire Emblem bringing its weapon triangle. The weapon triangle is something I hadn't had experience with before, but I really enjoyed it in this game. It's like rock, paper, scissors basically. Enemies with swords are weak to lances, enemies with lances are weak to axes, and so on. You'll be able to tell what an enemy is weak to just by looking at the weapon they're wielding, which takes away some of the guesswork these games often have. The session system is what you'll be taking advantage of when exploiting enemy weaknesses, as it allows your party members to perform follow-up attacks. You'll want to be hitting weaknesses anyway for higher damage, but the sessions provide you with an even bigger incentive to do so. Keep in mind that the enemies are playing by the same rules as you though, so they have their own sessions that you'll want to avoid. Early on in the game, you'll only have 1 or 2 sessions since you only have 3 party members, but this will later expand to your characters in reserve when they learn the open audition skill. Make sure you level up every additional party member you come across until they learn open audition, so that they can always jump into battle to help, even when you never intend to use them in your active party. This is actually really awesome because it fixes something that has always bothered me about JRPGs, and that's the arbitrary headcount. What in-universe reason are we ever given for the party to be limited to 3 or 4 members? While this game doesn't entirely fix that problem, it makes it so that every character feels like they're there with you, providing you with support. You're even aided by the non-combatant characters in the duo arts. The session system is really satisfying, but it can get pretty ridiculous when you have about 10 of them each turn. There were actually times when I considered not using sessions to win a battle because I'd have to sit through 20 seconds of unnecessary attacks. The battle animations are really awesome, but they can become pretty tedious to watch. It also doesn't help that you don't have any control after a session has started. It's not like the one mores in Persona 3 where you get to pick the next attack. It's not as involving as it could have been. You're able to expand your repertoire of skills at the Bloom Palace, where Tiki will craft you new weapons and abilities. Your strengths and weaknesses are tied directly to these weapons, and so are the skills you inherit. It's through this that you can tweak character builds the way you like, provided they don't stray too far from their class. Ellie is an archer and is obviously not going to learn any physical skills other than bow attacks, but you do have a choice in what other skills she learns. I wouldn't call it linear, but you certainly don't have as much choice as other Shin Megami Tensei games. Weapons change up resistances and weaknesses, but not in a way that becomes essential to your strategy. Your protagonist will always be weak to fire, for example, and there's no weapon you can equip him with that will suddenly make him nullify fire. The protagonist is normally the least restrictive character in RPGs, being a blank slate you can build however you like. Not so much in this game. Itsuki starts with an affinity for Zio and sword skills, and there's nothing you can do to change that. You don't even get to allocate his stat points when he levels up. You do have a choice on how you want to build your party, but it's minimal at best. Fortunately, this doesn't stop the gameplay from being fun and engaging. You're always learning new and better skills to replace the old ones, and there's just enough variety in there, such as having the choice to take on high-risk skills such as attack mirrors, to keep you involved in how the party develops. You're also heavily encouraged to mix and match different party members, and you're even able to swap them out in the middle of a battle. There are other skills such as ad-libs and duo arts, which have a chance of randomly activating in a battle. These will be a lifesaver when you're close to dying, as they can heal and buff your party and afflict the enemy with status ailments, though I felt they were a little too random, and were certainly not something you could count on. You'll be happy when they activate, but extremely mad when they don't activate in the middle of a tough boss. The best is when you have an ad-lib and a duo art activate on the same turn. It's like Christmas come early. You have more control of the SP gauge, which is the 3 blue bars in the top right of the screen. It's very similar to a mechanic found in Persona Q, and it allows you to activate an SP skill whenever you want. Each character has their own unique SP skills called special performances, and their effects vary. Some of them are single powerful strikes, while others are more for support, like Tsubasa's debut Smile, which heals and buffs the party. SP skills bring an extra layer of strategy to long, drawn-out boss fights. You'll be constantly watching those bars, saving them for when you're in a tight spot, and becoming extremely worried when you realise you only have one left. I've always thought the best thing about turn-based RPGs are those moments in the middle of battles where you just have to stop and think. I'm low on health. Do I heal? Do I buff my party and hope I can survive until the next turn? Do I spend this turn playing defensively? Do I play offensively? Or do I do a little of both? It's a style of gameplay that is pure strategy, and TMS understands this perfectly. Each enemy encounter in boss fight is like a puzzle you'll have to figure out the solution to. Unless you purposely venture into a lower level area, there are no battles that will end just because you're over leveled. I say this because I play a lot of JRPGs where battles become a chore because of lack of variation in strategy. It just becomes a matter of hitting the same attacks over and over again without being forced to learn its mechanics and get better. Atlus loves to throw brick walls at you that make you rethink how you've been playing, and Tokyo Mirage is no different. There are some insanely difficult bosses in this game that will throw you back to the drawing board looking for a solution. And no, grinding is usually not the answer, as anyone who has ever fought Matador in Nocturne can attest. Go get the buffs! There was one boss fight that was pretty much unbeatable unless you were using a single skill only one of your party members has. Tokyo Mirage is not an easy RPG by any means, but there are parts that were a little too lenient for my tastes. Revival beads now revive a party member with 75% health opposed to the usual 50% or the even more punishing 25%. This made Balm of Life items, which revive you with full health, not quite as amazing to find. Items which fully heal are also abundant in this game. You can buy them from the store, so you'll most likely have about 20 of them on hand at any given time. You can afford to do this because there's very little to do with money in this game. You don't purchase weapons or armor, so the only thing you can splurge on are stat boosting accessories, items and costumes. That provides you with no tactical advantage, by the way. You'll quickly have everything though, so there's no sense of excitement in earning cash. It also means that you have little motivation in doing non-character specific side quests. Why they designed it this way is beyond me, but it really devalues money in this game to a useless number in the top right of the screen. I really like the aesthetics in this game for the most part. The story is told through these standard in-game cutscenes, anime cutscenes, and these fantastic pre-rendered sequences when characters are performing. The performances are pretty spectacular, I must admit. My only problem with these is that there's no way of watching them again, as far as I can tell. Would have been nice to have some sort of theatre mode where you can rewatch performances, but nope, if you want to see them, you're gonna have to look them up on YouTube or play the entire game again. Is this a music video with tons of special effects, or are they using magic to do this? Even Michael Jackson music videos didn't look this big budget. The voice acting has been very nicely handled in this game, with the entire cast singing their own respective musical numbers. Personally, I would have liked to have seen an English dub, because there are some quite annoying, high-pitched voices in this game. I'm looking at you, Mamori, and your stupid cooking show. The art style is okay on average, but it's not great. The carnage forms range from absolutely badass and awesome, which is the case with Ellie, to weird Chinese Hatsune Miku knockoff, which is what Kiryu has been cursed with here. The enemy mirages have weird designs to them. Some of them look alright, but others look like cheap imitations of Kazuma Kaneko's designs. I suppose if Atlas is going to jack an art style, Kaneko's would be an obvious choice given how closely tied to SMT it is. The human characters do have a little bit more originality to their designs though, and they're closer to Fire Emblem than SMT. Wait, SMT? Tokyo Mirage Sessions? TMS? Oh, I see what you did there, Atlas. Very clever. Navigating dungeons is much more user-friendly than your typical dungeon crawler. You're able to avert battles entirely by giving the enemies a whack with your sword. This means you only fight when you want to, making a lot of the puzzles a hell of a lot less frustrating. I don't mind random encounters that much, except when I'm trying to solve a puzzle at the same time. Speaking of puzzles, this game does have quite a few good ones scattered around that'll have you taking out the pen and paper. They're all very well designed and never feel like a chore to solve, except when the game forces you to backtrack for some side quests through puzzles you've already solved. All while getting annoying messages from your friends. The social media site in this game that everyone uses is something I was actually looking forward to seeing in Persona 5. In this modern age, it just makes sense to have teenage characters obsessed with sending stupid emoticons. Oh, how wrong I was! Characters will occasionally text something that you might find funny or interesting, but most of the time it's something you didn't need to read. You can just ignore your junk mail, but the game never stops reminding you in the top left that you have messages to read. I read every message just so I wouldn't have to see that number. Every inane, pointless message and their silly cat emojis. It's all handled on the Wii U pad as well, so you have to look down every time you have something to read. Please don't put this in Persona 5. Tokyo Mirage Sessions is not what that initial trailer promised. What we got was something a little bit more entrenched in Japanese idol culture with cues taken from the Persona series. If you like Japanese idol culture, then I suppose you'll get more out of this game than those basement-dwelling Megaten masochists. But I really like this game. The story has a lot of Fire Emblem fan service. The gameplay is total Megaten fan service. The only thing it's missing is Demi-Fiend fighting Marth in a post-apocalyptic fantasy world. But let me pose this question. Would that have really worked? Would that mishmash of styles really have made for a good game? Maybe, maybe not. It would only be for fun to speculate at this point. All I know is that we have Tokyo Mirage Sessions and it's a pretty good game. Not perfect, but I enjoyed the hell out of this game. It's silly, sure, but it has heart. There's sincerity in how this mess of a story is told. The only cynicism to be found is how it attempts to be Persona. There's stumbles and faults, definitely, but not enough to stop it from being a fun game. If you don't like what you see in this game, then that's fine. I simply ask that you give it a chance. Unless you're playing the English version, which has been completely and utterly butchered by localization. Yes, TMS sports one of the most inconsistent, prudish censor jobs I've ever seen Nintendo cobble together. Swimsuits have been replaced with gaudy, bizarre street fashion. Tsubasa's wedding dress has been nonsensically covered. Characters have been aged up, and the vagina bones have been stolen from us. What the hell, Nintendo? Why do this? A lot of these changes detract from the original intention. The swimsuit modelling was a reference to a very real part of Japanese modelling that is a little bit more titillating. Now it's just a thing. I don't even know what it is now. Modelling in dumb clothes, I guess. I won't go into too much detail, but this censorship is very disheartening. It makes it hard for me to recommend this game. The game sold badly, so you might as well buy it. But you'd also be supporting Nintendo's ass-backwards way of doing things. What a sour note to end on, but this is what we have now. A watered-down version of a good game for people who probably never intended to play it in the first place. I'm a lover of JRPGs. I love Shin Megami Tensei. I love Atlas. I've never played Fire Emblem, but I'm sure I would love that too. I'm your target audience, Nintendo, and damn it, I wanted the lewd fan service. Tokyo Mirage Sessions. It's a good game. Well worth owning if anything I've said here appeals to you. In fact, I enjoyed this way more than Xenoblade. I've been Snickety and I'll see everyone in the next episode of Microwaving with Snickety Slice, in which we'll be microwaving this Feaster's burger here.
ちにさよならを言うのは少し寂しくなるからこの瞬間一つになれた気持ちをずっと温めて宝物にしようそうさどんなに負けそう